Right, Warriors, we're back again with the great Adam Gell, a good friend of mine and healer. Adam, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you, Mike. Good to
Yeah,
be here.
it's an important time, and really an important time to heal and focus on healing in 2023. It really is a priority, and we're all surrounded by toxins, trauma, and thoughts, and the three T's really play a role in our physical and mental health. And we're really being bombarded in all directions now in 2023. And today we're going to really discuss ways that we can improve our health. And one of the things that really has become a focal point for people, what they're dealing with, is the liver. And what would you like to start us off with the energy of the liver and what people could be experiencing right now?
Yeah, well, we've discussed it a little bit, but in the springtime, in Chinese medicine specifically, one organ or a bunch of organs in combination rule in that specific season. It so happens to be that in springtime, the liver is the governing organ that controls this time of year, so to speak. It's related to the color green. It's related to the color of it's to the emotion of anger and resentment, and it's also connected to our eyes, uh, our eye health. You know, if our eyes are dry, if we have a difficulty reading, uh, in terms of assimilating liquids or fluids in the body, and it has an impact on that. But more so, the fact is that the liver is the largest organ in the body, and it removes the most amount of toxins in the body. And so it's obviously pertinent to the fact that of how our bodies can become overloaded and not be able to remove the toxins that are in our system. It works hand in hand with digestion, since it's part of the digestive system, and specifically the stomach is affected by the liver's power. So when the liver is overloaded and gets angry, so to speak, it lets it out on the stomach. And then the stomach has a hard time of then digesting foods because there's a lack of hydrochloric acid secreted in the stomach because of the fear, and the stomach almost shakes. And sometimes when we eat, the food goes down our digestive system and almost sits there like a log and doesn't get broken down. And then it causes a backup and a buildup, and refluxing and frustration, and penting emotions, feeling contained, and not being able to to release or digest things, so to speak, emotionally and more so physically.
I feel that is a very important thing that people should be aware of. I think a lot of people have anger and resentment of what's going on in the world, especially if they're tuned into mainstream media. One of the things to really help your mental health, and now we can see physical ailments as well, is really turning off the TV and finding other sources. People do probably feel like they can't digest what's really going on. And it's a time period where I do feel that we are bombarded with toxins, and the body has a natural way of expelling these toxins, getting them out. But we really are bombarded with the toxins. So what are some ways that we could really get rid of this overload of toxins?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously physical movement, physical activity of increasing our caloric expenditure, of moving the fluids out of the body by sweating, is some of the physical things we could do. I think some of the emotional things we can do are being in touch with our anger and not letting it get overspill or go overboard, and recognizing that the fact that there's a connection between mind and body, and knowing that sometimes the mind affects, obviously the emotions affect the physical body itself, and not putting it into one or the other, and recognizing that there's a metaphysical component, the mind and body together. That's a key component. The other thing is to recognize that the fact that the Chinese medicine offers specific acupressure points, and you and I discussed it. There's a point called Liver 3, which is a very cleansing part of the liver meridian located between the big toe and the second toe, probably about 2 to 2.5 fingers up from the crease of the the big toe and the small toe. And I think those are some of the things that we can become aware of. And as you mentioned earlier, you spoke about the fact that for the last couple of years, or we've all been going through a healing crisis or a healing period. And I think the physical world has caused us to become emotional and deal with our emotions. And sometimes some of these physical ailments start to spring up, especially in the spring. Spring is a time where, as I said, the liver becomes active. So we want liquids. We want actually sour foods. Sour, like lemon, is one of the foods that actually helps the liver work more fluidly and more healthily.
Yeah, even on my journey, I was called to detox very strongly. And this has just been a buildup. So there might be a lot of people dealing with the buildup. When we really think of the three causes of disease, the toxins, I feel, in this world that we're in post 2020, whatever was going on, we are bombarded with more toxins than we've ever felt in our lives, more trauma. Look at all the trauma. That's been going on in the world, and negative thoughts, maybe feeling like, oh, things aren't going right, not working out. And this anger and resentment does build. So you're actually getting the physical aspects that could throw the liver off, really taxing the liver. Then you have the thought aspect, the mental aspect. So you have it twofold. How would you like to explain how the liver throws off the digestive tract? Because you did a little energy work on me and really helped me out, and I kind of felt that unable to digest food and gaining a lot of weight in the midsection. So how does the liver actually throw off the digestive tract?
Well, because as I mentioned earlier, the liver is a very powerful organ, and through our own emotions, we're able to entice the liver to react to our own digestive system. So if we become overwhelmed, if we become angry, and we feel that rising of heat in the back of our neck, or we feel heat in our head, what we're doing is we're taxing the liver emotionally, and that puts a strain on the stomach. So the stomach cannot work properly if the liver is not allowing it to, because it's consuming up most of the energy. Since it is one of the biggest organs, all the blood flow goes to the liver, and it puts a drain on it. So, I spoke about it a little bit before. So the stomach won't be able to then secrete the hydrochloric acid, the acid that's necessary to digest the food. And it impacts the whole system. The gallbladder then rises. You get a bitter taste in your mouth. It's not just the physical again, it's the emotional, things like you said that we just can't digest and we couldn't digest. But the good thing is that it's an alert system in our body to recognize the fact that something's not right, that we need to pay attention to it in order for us to then, to heal it. And we discussed healing crises. I mean, we go through healing crises to put us over the hill so that we can gain momentum to find a path of healing and of good emotional and physical health. I remember myself years ago, I remember having that rising heat, that rising liver fire, and you could feel like the food coming upward, like agita or indigestion. And it's very difficult to try to bring it down, but we want to bring the energy downward on a downward flow, not on an upward flow. Usually hot foot baths bring the energy down. Massaging our feet brings the blood flow down. It brings the liver down. It helps the digestive system. Also, different points we discussed, stomach 36, which is on the leg, but below the kneecap, about 4 fingers down. That stomach 36 has a way of also bringing energy to the stomach, so that when it's missing its blood flow, then it would then help with the digestion. So all of it's all connected. The emotions, the physical, metaphysical, it's important for us to know, sometimes we don't want to deal with the emotions of things because they're overwhelming, and our ego sort of blocks the feelings that come into play in our physical body. But if we don't pay attention to the emotions, then eventually it becomes a physical ailment, and then we just pay attention to the physical, and then we just create a bigger cycle of more physical ailments, and we manifest what we're constantly thinking about. So it's important to break that cycle, I think, to draw it back to what's going on emotionally as well as physically that is creating my situation.
Yeah, it's really important to take a time out every once in a while. I've been really since 2021, and losing my job and really having to work every single day and create something. And I actually, you forget about yourself, and then the other traumas in life, and all the different locations in the world, and maybe having to get it, becoming empathic and feeling all the trauma of the area. we actually forget about ourselves, and eventually the buildup. You think you're invincible to everything, but we actually need a timeout to focus on these things. I speak about my nana a lot on the channel, and when I was a boy, she was big into reflexology, and she would show me the points on the hands and the feet. She had a book and a chart, and she was big on pressing in the different
Yeah.
areas. Could you explain a little bit how pressing on these areas can actually either influence the liver or anything else?
Yeah, sure. Well, reflexology and the hand points are all nerve endings or the ends of where the energy flows. Like in Chinese, it's called the qi. So the energy flows through specific channels, and they end up usually in the head, in the hands, and in the feet. That's the end points of these meridians or these points. And so energy accumulates in specific points in the hand and in the feet, and pressing on them stimulates endorphins. It stimulates chemicals which actually help the body send messages through those pathways to stimulate whatever organ is connected to that. It's pretty fascinating because specific points on the hand are located somewhere in specific points on the feet. So for example, like the kidney, which is located, the adrenals, if you take your middle finger and you bring it down to the center of your hand and you press on that spot, same place indirectly on the bottom of your feet, on the sole of your foot. So those points themselves help loosen up, so to speak, the blocked chi or energy that is not flowing correctly. And it's almost like having a block in a pipe, and you can't like flush the toilet. It backs up and it comes upward, and then you have a problem. You have a flood. So when you have a smooth channel, by pressing on a point, you're stimulating the blood flow to bring the energy in a smooth pattern, so that you have better blood flow and you have actual ease in emotions as well, which are connected to all the different organs. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, they think emotions aren't important, but emotions are energy in motion, and we're kind of, we hold it in. We don't want to take it out on our loved ones, or don't want to bother anyone, but we actually have to release these things. And it's interesting too. So you said there's parts in the head, the skull, that you can press as
Yeah,
well.
you have different places. The gallbladder meridian runs straight above, straight through here in the middle of the eye, upward to the top of the head. You have different points, kidney points that help when you acupressure those points for the kidney to bring better water flow if there's blockages in urination or in edema or swelling. Yeah, but the point you said is interesting, because a lot of times our emotions, um, we want to be, it's a matter of self-acceptance, I think, right? The inability to accept ourselves as being imperfect, and to see ourselves as imperfect puts a void or a damper on ourselves, or wounds our ego. But I think life presents itself with these healing crises to show us that we're not perfect, that we have to go through these ups and downs in order to soften the ego and eventually become um, not only more compassionate with others, but more so compassionate for ourselves. I think that's the hard part. I think the background of where we come from, right? Parents and all kinds of other stuff set the stage for how we look at ourselves and how we either accept ourselves or we don't accept ourselves.
Yeah. We don't see emotions. We don't see most of these energies.
Right.
Something I talk about on the channel, like, I talk a lot about solar flares and these energies that come in that are part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And just because we can't see them, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And just because you can't see the emotions build up in your body doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So sometimes we accumulate negative attribute, and your body's telling you, take a look at me and address this.
Right.
I think we all have to be aware that this is really part of our lives, and most of these ailments that we have are um, our emotions. There are a lot of toxins as well, that we're all part in this, but taking part of all these things in our everyday lives in the world right now. And there's different foods. So we could do the energy work. We could change our thoughts, but there's also physical things like foods, and a couple of things that we were going back and forth with to different extents. the lemons are actually very good for detoxification at a milder rate, and so is celery.
Right.
And would you like to elaborate a little bit on
Yeah, well,
why these types of foods do that?
the lemon, the flavor of a lemon is sour, and as I mentioned before, the liver likes sour. It helps it with its digestion. It helps break down the fats. In as much as the celery salts that are in it help break down also the toxins and the specific fats that are in there that create the congestion. Um, so the lemon itself is sour as it goes into the body as an acidity, but once it hits the digestive system, becomes alkaline, and that alkalinity helps change the blood chemistry of our bodies, bringing it from an acidic number to a more alkaline number, which helps with our digestion. Our digestion and our body functions and our cells function better when it's an alkaline environment, as does the celery. I mean, we've looked at the medical medium, a lot of the information that comes out of his experiences, and juicing celery in the morning is, initially I felt a little bit off, and I felt the breakup of the toxins or of the digestive biles, whatever's, blocked. You get that little nauseousness feeling because then it's an upward flow, and you're tasting it, and you're actually feeling it. And then once it breaks free, it becomes a little bit easier for your digestion to then just send it down like a block pipe and clear it away. And yeah, so I think the lemon and the celery are very helpful. And I know if you've done it, we've spoken about, and I've used it myself. And I think it's a good healing mechanism. It helps with virus, EBVs, streptococcus virus. It has antiviral and antibacterial properties. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think the experience with celery is more intense, and the lemon is a little more
yeah,
milder.
yes,
For anyone that's listening, maybe good to start with lemons. But when we develop these things, these are all chronic issues, and when it's chronic, that means this has been part of your life, day after day. We don't develop these things in one day.
right.
So when we think of really dis-ease in the body, and we're exposed to toxins all the time. A trauma could also be a fall or a blunt force trauma. That is something that happens immediately, but we have negative thoughts over a long period of time, and we could be exposed to toxins over a long period of time. So what are some things that we could do, since this is like almost like a war that's going on with our body?
Yeah,
We have
well,
to the enemy doesn't take any days off, so we don't have to take days off either. What are certain things that we could do on a more of a daily?
Well, I think positive manifestation, part of positive affirmations. Since our thoughts create the chemistry of our body, it's all connected. I think we create toxicity in our body and our liver. If a person gets angry, we're going to have a bad taste in our mouth. We're going to have a difficult time digesting a meal after we get angry. In fact, if a person has an argument and then eats a meal, they're going to definitely have indigestion. They're definitely going to feel it's difficult to actually swallow or digest the food because it's shut down. The liver's taken over now, and it's like saying, "I'm angry now. You made me angry." Um, so in terms of things we can do, we need to, I think, be cognizant of the fact that our emotions are such a strong component towards the chemistry, as I just mentioned. And so waking up in the morning and actually slow movements, breathing exercises have a great benefit for the immune system and also for removing some of these toxins and wastes. I mean, sweating is a great way of releasing toxins in the body and as a physical thing, just as exercises. But for an emotional standpoint, I think I do Tai Chi every morning, and Tai Chi is slow movements, but moving each body part, which allows each pressure meridian of the body to be moving and to release energy. So soft, it doesn't have to be hard movements. A person doesn't have to lift weights every day or jog every day. But the fact that if you're moving, you're giving the better blood flow and circulation towards the liver. But to be aware of our emotions, so important. To be aware that we create the chemical environment in our bodies with our thoughts. And it's so important for us to, we concentrate on other things and we try to avoid the things that we're not good at or we don't know how to do, and we compensate or overcompensate. So a person may over exercise to compensate for the fact that they don't take care of their emotional end of their lives, or not aware that the fact that that anger or that they hold or the resentment they have is creating a toxicity in their bloodstream, just as much as eating something that's poisonous for them. You know, people drink alcohol to suppress their anger, which comes out in the liver. That's why people get cirrhosis. They get cirrhosis because the liver is the organ that breaks down the fatty parts of alcohol, but it does the opposite. So when a person gets angry, they drink alcohol, they feel good because
Mhm.
they calm down, but then they got to drink more alcohol to then suppress the anger the next time. So I think paying attention to ourselves of what we're feeling, like doing an emotional check every morning and saying, how am I feeling? And rather than putting it in the body in a place where we can, because actually the liver is associated with the solar plexus chakra, you know, with the yellow and the stomach and all that area right below our rib cage. So we wind up getting stomach pains. We have digestive problems. We have, you know, gallbladder. We have that bile taste. And sometimes, most of the times it's physical, but a lot of times I think doing an emotional check and sitting with our emotions and feeling what we're feeling so that it works itself through rather than not dealing with it where it gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, we get an ailment in a specific part of the body. And when it's the liver, it's the stomach area. The stomach gets stomach ache, digestive problems, and all that stuff.
A little while back, a couple years ago, I did a video, The Water Must Flow, because when the water is stagnant, like when you see water that's stagnant, you know, disease, you could literally see it in a puddle. So we always have to move the waters of the body. A long time ago, I was, you know, into bodybuilding and, you know, health, nutrition, eating right. That's always been, you know, part of my journey for years. And now, you know, as we've been talking for several years and changing up the mindset, especially since 2020. We all need to sit with it, and that's something that you told me a few years back. And you know, I kind of complained, oh, like why am I alone? And now it's I see the importance of it, especially in a time period right now where a lot of people might be afraid to be alone. They might be afraid that they could be shunned in the workplace or excommunicated from their group because you know, they want to speak the truth, and if they speak up, you know, they could be afraid because of the way that they're treated and kicked out of the group, ostracized. Well, number one, can you share about the importance of sitting with it right now? Because you know, negative people, and if you can elaborate, can actually be like a poison for your body.
Well, you know, you mentioned it earlier that we're not just our physical, we're an electromagnetic field. We're energy that's not contained just by the skin. You know, our body is outside of our skin as well. We have an energetic body, and our chakras and our aura can be seen by people, right? And that energy, you know, when a person walks in the room and you get a vibe about a person or you feel something, you're feeling the person's energy field go by you. And sometimes it's smooth and it's nice, and sometimes it's needly and it's prickly and it's uncomfortable. And sometimes people, when you become sensitive of your own emotions personally, when you sit with yourself, you then have the ability to know your boundary of energy. And when you know your boundary of energy, you know what's then impeding upon your energy field, and that doesn't feel good or does feel good to you. So the importance of sitting with ourselves is to know the extent of how far our energy goes. Like, in other words, a person can feel their energy field with their hands, right? They can feel, if they rub their hands or they move their hands, they can feel the energy flow that's outside of their body. And when are in toxic relationships or around toxic people or we're around people who reject us or try to lower our energy field, it's pushing against us and trying to actually make us withdraw. It's so important for us to then expand our energy field, and that's done through the breath and by, you know, projecting your energy to a larger place than it is, and then not backing people off, but stating your boundary and knowing your boundary. And you know, so many people in these last 3 years have been forced to either remain inward and implode, or in the process of imploding, then realize that they need to expand. but they have to first reach that point of what's the level of implosion that they accept for themselves, or how much can they accept without breaking. But that the breaking point is the point where we then either go inward more, or we then blow up and expand and say, the heck with it. I'm going to be who I want to be, in spite of the fact that I'm not accepted, that I may be alone, as you mentioned. And I think we all go through this if we're on this type of ascension. And specifically, these last 3 years brought that out. That's why so many people, right, are following your work you're doing and the wonderful and inspiring things you speak about. So it's it's definitely resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that boundaries are very important. That's something that a lot of people didn't have. And I mean, this really is a time period, it's so intense that we're forced to put up these boundaries and start respecting ourselves, because the length of our life, our lifespan literally depends on it. And just even myself, like I was healthy for so long, and seeing what I have gone through in the past several months, and to see a massive change in myself that I know that's not normally how I am. I think a lot of people, it's really important to be in tune with your point of homeostasis. We all know where we normally are, and how we eat and what's going on and what we're feeling. But we do have to listen to the body, and how these changes are really weighing us down or throwing us off from where we want to go. But boundaries definitely, it could be a physical boundary, yeah, the lifestyle. We shared about this because we grew up in the same place, and
Yep.
now and then we were numb to it, and now all of us
Yeah.
we can't physically handle it. Like it's great that we're here together. Can you explain that, like feeling like, because we both grew up in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and now it's like the energy, it's either we changed or the energy there changed, but it's deteriorating to the body.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think personally, I'd rather be alone than to share my boundary with someone that's going to vampire it or going to take it apart and try to manipulate it. It's so easy for us to do that when you're empathic and you have sensitivities and you have a compassion and empathy for other people. You want to give your time, you want to give your space, sometimes away too easily. And I think life teaches you to set a boundary so you take your energy back and just don't give it out. Otherwise, you become like a dish rag and you're just all over the place. And eventually, we have resentment towards the people who do that, but more so the resentment then turns on ourselves, where we feel like I didn't take my power, I allowed my power to be taken. And so many of us sometimes set ourselves up for that so that we could then make the choices based upon in it being in an angry state rather than a proactive state where we take the initiative in situations. Um, because it's much easier for our egos to digest us as us being the victim rather than us being the proactive one who made the choice and the decision. And I think we're all set up for that. And I think these particular times, these last couple of years, have put us in this position to become more proactive, because there aren't people there who are going to protect and stand up for people's rights who are in positions where they lost their power. So we had to take the power back. You're a great example of that with you as a teacher and the job you had and the work you're doing now. As I said before, it's incredible that you've done what you've done. And some people might be sitting in a corner in a room and saying, poor me, poor me, poor me, and waiting for somebody to rescue them from the situation or from any situation, or eventually, surrendering to the fact that, it's too difficult and I'm just going to go along with the masses and do what everybody else is doing. I don't think that's the case for many of the people listening here, but the fact of the matter is there are people who are still probably not understood by family members, they're not understood by friends, and there's not too many outlets where people can then feel understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
There's not a lot of outlets. It is all about self-empowerment, and self-empowerment really can heal us when you have this strength. There's an amazing power in speaking the truth, because everything carries a vibration. So truth is the highest state, literally the highest. Most people actually in this world, They literally can't speak the truth. And think about how it is, how you feel like you speak a lie and then you want to defend a lie and you get lower and lower. You go down the vibe, you go down the consciousness scale, you go lower and lower.
Right.
And Matrix world was based off of control of lies. And think of how empowered, if a person wants to become self-empowered, how powerful and how great you feel just speaking the truth. And everyone should try it. Try speaking up, to not bowing down to, people. Could be families in the house, could be your coworkers. Just speak up the truth. I actually, I had a Patreon. We have a Zoom meeting, and I just spoke about this last night. And we had someone on, and she was saying like how it's amazing to just speak the truth out in the workplace when it's so hard. And these are warriors right now. We think of warriors in the past, like, with the sword. This is modern time. Like, it's think about, like, the world is the battlefield, and you gotta defend yourself and speak the truth. Otherwise, you'll be bulldozed over.
Yeah.
And so when you are bulldozed over, we kind of spoke about this back in 2021 when a lot of people were forced to maybe make a decision. And what are they carrying inside of them this whole time?
Well, a lot of people don't really want to be abandoned. It's an abandonment issue. It's a feeling of being the only one. And it takes a great person and it takes a great personality to figure out that inevitably I have myself and I have to stand for my own truth. And when a person stands for their own truth, they take their own personal power and they actually give their soul a sense of respect and relief, because the soul knows the truth, wants the truth. It's our ego, it's the human experience that tries to protect the ego from hearing things and being alone. And we're never really alone because we have a connection to the universe itself. But as you mentioned continuously on many of the things you speak about, the matrix and the media, and how much information is put out there as roadblocks and as interference in our thinking, interference in our decision making. And so many people feel that they have to go along with the masses rather than stand alone for what they believe in. Yeah.
The information that's hidden from us. Knowledge is power, and the lack of knowledge is the lack of power. And that's how people develop chronic illness. What I was going through was chronic. And
Yeah.
they'll tell you, take a Tums, Adam, take a Tums. But actually, and as we discussed today, a lot of people, when you have the upset stomach and this going on, it's not take a Tums. We actually have to focus on the liver and not actually the stomach. So when we learn how all these energy flows of the body actually work, and what we could do, we become self-empowered and we learn how to take care of it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself, when I do distance Reiki and I do healing work, I focus in on the chakras themselves, because the chakras are an energetic energy, and they're an energy that is about 3 to 5 inches away from the body, that are connected to the organs of the body, the main organs of each specific chakra. So the liver is the largest. So working on that area will help relieve some of the blockages, as I mentioned before, and some of the symptoms that come along with that. And removing the energies from the outside of the body, the visualizations of seeing the energy cleared and moving it and feeling it, becomes a very important part of assisting others. And as you mentioned before, people go through healing crises, and sometimes they need a little extra oomph to push things through. Just like a person needs a tow truck sometimes to help the person's car move. They can't get it to go. Their intention is to get their car to go. The car gets stuck, but they need something to just like drag it somewhere else. Sometimes the energy does that. Energy of moving and manipulating energy around has a powerful effect on doing that.
Yeah, because it was developed chronically over such a long time.
Right.
And like you did a healing on me, and sometimes we just need that little burst, and then we could manage it ourselves, and we could do it through daily practices and our diet and our thoughts. For those that are not aware, chakra in the ancient Sanskrit means spinning wheel of energy. And so we do have an energy body, and we do have spinning wheels of energy. So is the liver connected to the solar plexus chakra, or is it something
Yes,
else?
yes, yes. It's connected to the solar plexus chakra. That whole area is connected into the glands of the gallbladder, the liver, and the stomach area. It sends energy. It sends its spinning energy. Usually, as many people who know a little bit about the chakras, they become blocked. Means, as you just mentioned, they're not spinning. That means there's a lack of flow into that energy, and usually it starts off with on the emotional body, where the emotions stop it from spinning. And because of that, then it becomes a physical ailment. So, just like a person's chest, when they have grief or they have heartache, they have a specific, some type of emotional event that triggers some type of physical activity in the body of slowing down the spin of that chakra, which then doesn't allow the energy to flow in that area. A person then develops heart disease on a grand scale, on a maybe small scale, breathing problems, asthma, bronchitis. People, people have different ailments because of the physical, but those chakras help when they're moving smoothly and when they're open. They have the tendency to help the blood flow and the organs and the digestion and the breathing and the elimination all work in a smooth way.
I think we're at a point in society in the timeline where we're aware that emotions and energy really cause these things. I feel a lot of people that are listening in know that like sometimes people lose the will to live, right? So like you might have a spouse, you see like a couple, one spouse passes away, and a few months later the other one does. We see examples of these things. So we have to really listen to our bodies and take care of our bodies when this buildup happens. It is going to happen, especially in the now moment, because things. It's like we kind of want things to move forward. Um, but it feels like there's a little like energy like holding it back. Do you feel the energy of the world is about to start moving forward? What are your
Yeah, you know what? I feel it's like in a holding. It's been in a holding pattern, and I think that the fact of holding on and being patient is so important. And I think when we are patient and we don't rush into things because we're frustrated because things are not moving at the pace we'd like them to be, I think that's a message from the universe to actually to listen to the message. I mean, Mercury's in retrograde now, which is actually slowing things down. I know for myself personally, I have desires to do things, but then again, the bottom line is I'll add it up and I'll say, don't do it. So I wind up holding off and feeling like I'm not doing the work because I'm truly motivated. I'm doing it out of the resistance I'm feeling that I'm supposed to feel to sit and think about things and to just take inventory and this for these next 3 weeks. So I do feel that, but I do feel that it'll break free. I think that the energy will open up. I think that things will shift in many different ways. On a geopolitical sense, it certainly will shift. But I also feel in an emotional sense, I think things will start to move a little bit and people will start to feel that not the freedom, but the ability to to initiate things and to complete things. So many people have different ideas. They want to get things started, but there's that feeling of like they're going against the grain. It's not flowing naturally. And I think the universe sends us those messages not to sometimes override the energy of the friction or the resistance that we're feeling. And I think we should know, like, like just when, like a sailor knows the winds of the ocean, I think we need to navigate through the winds of life to know when to make our turn and not force it, so to speak.
yeah. Things happen energetically before they happen physically. I mean, I even see,
Yeah.
we did energy work. I'm seeing physical changes, still constantly doing the work. The micro and the macro, I've shared on my channel that I was called really with a sense of urgency to detox the body, and now things are flowing. And so we're all, the part of the collective. So I feel that for the collective, since I'm going through this, and a lot of people have been backed up or the energy has been stagnant, now it's going to start to move forward.
Yeah.
We talk about really staying focused on our mental health. I recently just did a video on how the news, they get you addicted to fear, and they dangle, it's the dangling carrot, and they say, oh, but when, oh, just, a couple more months, or this, or get this guy in, and they hit the gong every 2 seconds, breaking news, and people are just, I gotta sit, so now years, especially, I remember people watching these things years ago, but especially since 2020, it's really been heightened. People are really needing this change right now because it's gotten so crazy. And people are sitting in front of the TV time and time and time again, breaking news, and nothing has happened this whole time. So that really grinds the gears down.
Absolutely. I mean, from my own perspective, when we become polarized, which is the intention of the media, to polarize us, to create news stations that are owned by the same companies, and to divide and conquer not only the masses but the information, and to switch and bait information to throw people off, especially when a person's in a state of fear. There are people who are going to seek information to understand it, or they're going to people who are going to hibernate from information and hold on to what they know and go back in that cave and just stay, hold on, for dear life. Um, I think it's so important for us to recognize the foundation of things rather than to look at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to things. And I think the last 2 or 3 years have certainly exposed more of the iceberg than we knew before. I, for one, was not politically interested in what was really going on. I didn't have the need to do that. I took life as it was. You work, you get your check. You can go out on the weekend, and you see the friends you want to see, and whatever interests you have or differences you have, you can really suppress and hide them based upon the fact that life would go on and you'd return back to the same place you where you left, like the workplace. And now things have completely shifted and changed. And so the social system, the media is just an example of who we are as a society. We also wanted lies. They didn't want the truth. They wanted everything to be rosy, roses and just a sweet environment and sweet, but it's not, that's not the reality. The reality is yourself. You spoke today about Tucker Carlson, and it was very interesting. Here you have a guy who's speaking up about the truth of what he knows to be the truth, and the own company he works for is suppressing and wants him removed. It's very interesting. It plays itself out initially, as you said, in the body, and we become toxic from the external world, not just chemically, but emotionally toxic, and makes us physically toxic and physically sick. There's so much that needs to be removed and cleansed from the body. But the first thing is to seek the truth and to find the truth, to understand the truth. What is the truth? Each person has their own truth. Each person has their own level of what a truth is to them. And I think it's so important to go a little bit beyond what we know to be a truth in our lives, to challenge it a bit.
What a lot of people don't realize, something I share on the channel, the real currency of the universe is your attention. Where your attention goes, that's where the energy flows. And where so many people are having a great spiritual awakening right now, the true wealth is health. And we're already in rocky times, and we might get into really crazy financial times. What do you think about that? But what could you say to people to reiterate? Because people might see, okay, what happens to the dollar, or what happens if the stock market crashes, and their money, which isn't really the wealth, the money goes down, the money's gone. Then their health, that's the only thing that matters. Because you don't have health, you're not alive. So what can we tell people to really stay focused? I think you think there's also going to be maybe some rocky times when it comes to finances, but how can we keep focused on the real wealth, which is our health?
Well, I think the true ship that we can navigate is our own selves. We really can't control what's extraneous to our bodies. Okay, we'd like to, and when we lose power within ourselves, we look to grasp externally. When we're in our own personal conflict with who we are and what we're dealing with, we take it to the external world to try to gain a sense of control so that we can bring that displaced feeling back into our bodies. But the real battle and conflict that exists in society, as you said before, on a global energy, is our own personal energy that's displaced to the world. So if we work on ourselves and we learn to be content with what we have, without trying to escape ourselves by searching for something more that gives us a sense of ego satisfaction, I think then we can learn to better navigate regardless of whatever happens to us. It's almost like a person who's meditating, they're within. And sometimes those monks who sit in the freezing ice cold don't feel the temperature because they've drawn their energy inward. And I think it's so important for us to focus on ourselves, of course, being aware of the reality on the earthly plane of the geopolitical situation that takes place between countries and also the financial situation that takes place. And I guess we have to also be concerned and also responsible with taking care of all aspects of our lives, whether it comes to our money, our finances, our physical health, our emotional health. In terms of what's coming down the road, I think that so much of the crypto stuff that we spoke about is being naturally manipulated and suppressed because it is a big threat to the digital currency that the government wants to come out with or is in the process of doing. But regardless of whatever happens, I think if we take care of our garden, our physical garden and our emotional garden, I think that's all we can really do. And I think we have a mission in this life to find our purpose. And that's part of our purpose is to try to let go, but not give up. Not give up our, as I said before, our earthly responsibilities of the things we just mentioned, but also to let go of connections to things that keep us in that matrix, and to better define of what we need to know rather than what we're being forced to know or to be manipulated by.
I feel perception is very important, and our perception, if we stay focused on that, we're here for soul's growth. It will make what actually happens. You got to stay focused, even as Adam's moving around.
Yeah, no, the battery thing went out. I'm sorry. I didn't want
Oh,
to make.
you're losing battery.
Yeah, Mercury retrograde. Anything's possible.
Yeah, we're getting this. Please smash the like button if you haven't clicked the like button. We're getting this out during Mercury. There's been a lot of complications, but we're almost through the whole thing. We're making it through. Smash the like button. It's a great support. But perception is really important to stay focused on. And when you have the perception of you are here for soul's growth, everything is a life lesson. And when you think about that, that's the meaning of life, that you're here and you live over and over again, and you're just here to evolve your soul. And this was a lesson. When you take that perception, then it kind of makes this time a lot easier. And it's not an easy time period. This is the end of a cycle, Adam.
That's an excellent point you just brought up, because first of all, I'm very fascinated with that particular subject myself, and I always, revert back to that frame of mind in order to better understand that I am a soul having a human experience. I am a tenant in a building, and although the building may crumble and may fall, I will survive that crumble and that destruction because my soul will go on. And we don't really if we take that attitude, we may sometimes lose the connection to the human experience by saying, oh, that's not a big deal. Then if I survive, then what am I worrying so much about all these different things? But the human experience makes us sometimes be present to feel the exact stresses we're supposed to feel in order to evolve, so our soul changes, so our soul grows from that experience. So we need these stresses, we need these experiences. We need to know that we chose the reincarnation to learn a specific lesson. And as you speak about, there are certain people that came back to do this type of work to enhance society and to enhance the human experience by helping people recognize their power, that they can evolve, that they can break free from the chains and the energies that have tried to hold people down. And it's so important for us to recognize that We have a purpose. We have a soul's purpose, and our soul is driving us to go to a higher place, a higher level of consciousness. It's our ego that doesn't want to listen to that inner voice or that message it's sending to us or speaking to us. Sometimes we get sick because we're not listening to the soul's message. We're not paying attention to what it's telling us. Sometimes people will hear a voice that'll tell them something blatantly, wake up. Or some people will get a near-death experience, or some people will go to a spiritual transformation where the whole world will be turned upside down on a high vibrational level. So I think it takes different shapes of feathers and different types of bricks to make a person change. But inevitably, whatever we're going through, I think if we use it as an impetus for our soul's growth, it can do no harm. It can only help us evolve.
I just recently did a video, A Great Shaking. You know, sometimes God gives you a little nudge to wake up, and if not, God gives you a big bang or a big shake. And I've learned that lesson over the time. You know, listen to the little nudges that God gives you, and if you don't get it, that's why I feel like, you know, I mean, not everyone's going to react to the great shaking the same, because a lot of us already learned and we're awake to what's going on. But that's why we need a great shaking, because most of the world is still not paying attention.
Yeah.
So I think for our bodies, and you know, I just recently did this as well. If you have to pay attention to the body and listen to the little nudges, so you know, a lot of these things are chronic, so you could get ahead of it, focus on things physically, mentally, and spiritually, and you know, get on top of it as soon as you can. Listen to the little nudge.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to leave us with today on healing or improving our?
Yeah, I wanted to say that our soul is encompassed from many lives and many experiences, and we're not just this particular lifetime. And although we're going through a difficult time for the last 2 or 3 years, our soul has been through so many years of reincarnation, lifetimes of reincarnation, and we've experienced every role in those lives, whether we be the king, the queen, the person who's the slave, the person who's enslaving people, different races, different genders. We've all been different things, and we've all experienced, or we will about to experience those in other lives, and we'll take this experience with us. So I say that this is just a show that we're living in, and I think, you know, I think it's important for us to be the best actor we can in the show, and try to turn out to be the hero and not the victim, and maybe not the villain, but to try to empower ourselves with our own path of what we need to learn. Yeah.
The self-empowered superheroes. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
This was a great conversation. You are a great healer. How can people find you for a healing or a reading?
Yeah. So my website is Adam Gell, universalhealing.com. I offer the Akashic Record readings, as we mentioned, in terms of past lives and future possibilities. And I do the distance Reiki, helping people's, you know, open up their energy centers, removing energies and blockages, and then adding different energies to those chakras with vibrational sounds, and just helping people understand that a lot of the experiences we have, as I mentioned before, we spoke about, are emotional and obviously physical as well, but a lot of it has to do with emotions and past experiences from our childhood that are unresolved. Yeah.
I think that getting the Akashic records, a lot of us know who we are as a child, and the matrix beats us down, and we have self-doubt, and people might have something in their mind. You say, oh, no, that can't be me, that can't be me. I think it's a tremendous confirmation, because you know, that's the matrix, you know, oh, you're crazy, you know. But I think a lot of us innately, we know who we are and what we're here to do. It's a great confirmation to do the Akashic records. And that's the journey. We're all finding out who we are. I think a lot of people that are getting this message. If you resonate with this message, please smash the like button. Please subscribe to the Our Everyday Lives YouTube channel. And you have a YouTube channel as well?
I have my YouTube channel, Conversations with Adam Gell and Inspiring Minds. Yeah. I have a few more words in my title than you, I think. Maybe 10 more words.
You got more words.
if, if, if people can type
Three.
that long.
He's got a 3-sentence YouTube.
I got the football jersey where my name goes down the arms.
They ran the letters. There was one guy who had to make it like a curve. They couldn't go straight across.
Right. Thompson. Yes.
Oh, this was it. And you got to laugh. If you want to heal yourself, you got to laugh. This was a great conversation. I love you. I hope that this message is helpful for everyone that's getting this message. Remember to stay focused on yourself. Listen to your body. You're here for soul's growth. And each and every one of you that's getting this message are here to become the greatest version of yourself. So I love you. Thanks for being here. And everyone share this message, and we'll see each other real soon. Take care.
Absolutely.